Good morning, honourable members. This sitting is in session.
Announcements by Your Honor. Minutes. Defer. Minutes.
Honourable members, the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, June the 3rd, 2025, to be deferred.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be deferred.
The question is that these minutes be stand deferred. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. Minutes stand.
Messages from Her Excellency the President. Petitions. Papers. Government notices. Private members' notices. Notices of questions. Report from select committees. First reading of bills. Statements by ministers. Congratulatory and/or obituary speeches. Personal explanations. Motions for leave of absence. Oral replies to questions. Notice of motion for adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance. Orders of the day.
Prime Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, subsection 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of the day's sitting.
The question is that under standing orders so recommended be suspended. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. All standing orders are suspended. Government's business is the instant order of the day.
Madam Deputy Speaker, order number 9, in the name of the Honourable Minister of Housing and Lands, to move the passing of a resolution to approve in accordance with Section 5 of the Crown Lands Vesting and Disposal Act, Chapter 225, the vesting in the National Housing Corporation of a parcel of land more particularly described in the schedule to the resolution, the property of the state situated at Coverley in the parish of Christchurch in this island for housing development.
Our member for St. George.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg your permission and indulgence to have order number 9 and 10 done in a cognate debate.
The question is, all members in favor. The question is that order number 9 and 10 be taken as a cognate debate. All honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. All member for St. Charles.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair, and good morning to the Chamber. The resolution before the House, Madam Deputy Speaker, is the approval to vest a total of 18,245.6 square meters of land at Coverley in the National Housing Corporation for the development of some 33 residential lots. In addition, Madam Deputy Speaker, on that said area of land, we also have as resolution number 10, the lease of the site at Coverley Great House, which is adjoining that piece of land, and that amount is 7,922 square meters of land on 2 lots at the Coverley Christchurch facility to facilitate the establishment of a hospice and palliative care facility for the terminally ill. And Madam Deputy Speaker, let me begin with the latter. The leasing of the land at the Coverley Great House of 7,922.5 square meters of land on 2 lots to facilitate the establishment of a hospice and palliative care facility for the terminally ill. Madam Deputy Speaker in Chamber, the Barbados Association for Cancer Advocacy wrote to the government on February 2022, proposing the use of the property of the Coverley Great House and a lot for the construction of a hospice and palliative care facility for the terminally ill. Consequently, the Cabinet approved this request by the Barbados Association for Cancer Advocacy. Madam Deputy Speaker, while I will start with the palliative care facility and the leasing of the land to BACA, and I hereafter refer to the Barbados Association for Cancer Advocacy as BACA, it would be remiss of me not to give a brief history on the lands at Coverley. Coverley Plantation in Christchurch, Madam Deputy Speaker, first appeared back in 1938. But it is only in the year 1969 that the state acquired that estate, the holdings. The Crown has previously acquired 97 acres, 1 rood, and 37 purchased by conveyance back in 1969. And I won't go into what a rood and a purchase, but only to say that is one of the measurements of land utilized in the United States and the United Kingdom. We talk about square meters and we talk about acres in this country. We don't talk about purchase and roods anymore. Wood or rood? Wood. Wood. He said wood. And 1 perch, Madam Deputy Speaker, is 1/60th of an acre, which if you use decimals is 0.00625 acres. And likewise, the rood, as the AG rightfully called it, is about the same thing, 0.23 of an acre. And back then in 1969, the state acquired the 97 acres, 1 rood, and 37 purchased by conveyance, while the BADNC also acquired 11 acres. They had some 28.82 purchased by conveyance dated 1967. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have used this lands at Coverley over the years for the purposes of housing, primarily housing. And now we want to include the use of an institution, the Coverley Great House. But the Plantation House, the Coverley Great House, and the curtilage was previously leased to a Mrs. Eudine Ramsey, and she operated there as a wedding center known as Adolphus. And those of you who are of that age and vintage would know of that. I don't think the member for the city knows about the Adolphus, neither the member for St. Michael West. And since the death of Ms. Ramsey, the Plantation House, Madam Deputy Speaker, has fallen into disrepair. And it is by no means anything new, the fact that BACA wrote to the government back in 2022, requesting the use of this great house for a palliative care facility. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, back in the 2018 manifesto of this government, we recognize the need for palliative care or hospice. And we said back then, we indicated the intention to work with organizations such as BACA on health initiatives, including a hospice for palliative care. And back in 2019, the government endorsed the need for a residential hospice and committed to using the good office of the Ministry of Health and Wellness to advance the cause. The anticipated source of support, Madam Deputy Speaker, for this hospice and palliative care facility was to provide not only the lease of the property at Coverley to retrofit the facility, and let me state here clearly, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the facility cannot be retrofitted in its current state. In the current state, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have to literally knock down the facility and build from scratch. So this would be a new palliative care facility at Coverley. But let me carry on the anticipated support of the government. In addition to leasing the property, an annual subvention as provided to most or some NGOs in this country by government. So you will get an annual subvention to assist BACA, the provision of narcotics for patients in the hospice, and this is the Trinidad and Tobago model, where the provision of narcotics for patients in the hospice is provided by the government. Accessing pension payments from pensioners when they are admitted to the hospice, and the government will ensure that those pensions for old age persons indeed are utilized to assist with the care of the elderly, and also the provision of subsidies for care of the elderly to be paid to the hospice when patients are admitted for care, example as provided for nursing homes in this country. Madam Deputy Speaker, it is worth noting that the World Health Organization, I think back in 2002, recognized palliative care as a right. The World Health Organization recognized the need to treat palliative care as a right. And some persons, Madam Deputy Speaker, as I speak here, I don't think the average man, well, I shouldn't say that. What I should say, Madam Deputy Speaker, some persons in this country don't know what palliative care is. And it is worth mentioning or taking you through what palliative care is. And I will utilize the brief, Madam Deputy Speaker, to enlighten some of the public for those who don't understand what palliative care is this morning. And palliative care refers to relieving the symptoms of an incurable medical condition. Its focus is on easing stress and improving overall quality of life. Unlike hospice, Madam Deputy Speaker, which people often associate with end-of-life care, palliative care can benefit people of any age and at any stage of a serious illness. And indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, palliative care is not only associated with cancer patients. We have a doctor in our house this morning, and indeed, persons who suffer from kidney diseases and other illnesses indeed can be treated at this facility. Madam Deputy Speaker, this program that will be instituted at Coverley, at this palliative care institution, is aimed to ease pain and help with other problems of illness. And those illnesses that might not be considered life-threatening. And I mentioned some kidney diseases, persons with NCDs and chronic NCDs. It also helps people live with the symptoms of long-running causes, such as HIV and AIDS. So you will have a palliative care facility that will not only treat with cancer and kidney diseases, but also treat with persons living with HIV and AIDS or with the side effects of treatments. Is palliative care end of life? No. Palliative care is available when you first learn, Madam Deputy Speaker, or you have a lifelong limiting illness, and you might be able to receive palliative care while you are still receiving other therapies, Madam Deputy Speaker, to treat the condition of palliative care. Having said that, end-of-life care is a form of palliative care you receive when you're close to the end of life. there are three types of palliative care, Madam Deputy Speaker, namely the physical aspect of it, then there's the pain and the symptom aspect, and then there's the, what I call the more fundamental aspect of it, which is the psychological aspect, providing the emotional support to patients, and also the spiritual aspect, knowing and acknowledging the beliefs and the values that give life meaning. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, this facility should be supported by all. There should be no political divide on this palliative care facility, because we know that sickness cuts across political parties. Persons, not only from political parties, but human beings, Madam Deputy Speaker, suffer these illnesses that must be treated. And as a caring government, we recognize the need to provide the support for BACA. And indeed, when you look at the statistics on the world stage, and I will read just a few for you. There are some 1,144 new cancer cases diagnosed in this country back in 2015. And they include prostate, breast, corpus luteal, and stomach being the most common types. Cancer-related mortality, Madam Deputy Speaker, accounted for some 523 deaths back in 2015, with prostate, breast, stomach, and lung cancers accounting for most of the deaths. And Madam Deputy Speaker, it is predicted that in the year 2035, there will be some 1,657 new cancer cases, of which 858 cancer-related deaths are predicted. Madam Deputy Speaker, we can stand here this morning and approve and debate the lease of this parcel of land in Great House Tobacco, but there is a greater need to entrench palliative care within communities in this country, and not just at Coverley Great House. We know several cancer prevention policies have been implemented in this country with regard to smoking. All public places are completely smoke-free. And we know tobacco products are indeed taxed at high rate of some 49%. So this government is indeed doing its effort best to ensure that we address, even if we can't cure 100%, but we create policies and implement policies that will allow the average man to understand that cancer is indeed nothing to play with. I have had to endure a family member, caring for them, visiting them, who indeed died as a result of cancer. That person was a smoker, very close to me, an uncle. And these are some of the things that I've told myself, that you will never see me with a cigarette in my mouth. And anytime you see me with a cigarette in my mouth, Madam Deputy Speaker, you will know that I have to be tanto loco and to take me to the right place for treatment. Because I believe that the need to live a healthy lifestyle is associated with what we do on a daily basis. We don't only come to Parliament, Madam Deputy Speaker, to speak on bills as it relates to legislation on infrastructure, as it relates to legislation on crime, as it relates to legislation on tourism or education. We have to lead by example as a government, as a parliament, in addressing legislation and policies that treat with health care. I can say without a shadow of a doubt, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the other members in this chamber, minister within the Ministry of Health, would have his say, and probably he would be more attuned to what is in tune to what is happening within this sector, within the Ministry of Health and Wellness. But I will report, Madam Deputy Speaker, that if you listen to the World Health Organization, back in 2002, the World Health Organization advocated for the expansion of palliative care when it urged the member countries like us, Barbados, to incorporate palliative care services into the cancer control and chronic non-communicable diseases program. And back in 2014, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think it was the prestigious Lancet Commission who advocated strongly for the global access to palliative care, declaring, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I quote from the Lancet Commission declaration, and I quote, "To alleviate all forms of pain and suffering is an ethical duty of societies and healthcare professionals." So we have an ethical duty to treat him with palliative care, as declared in by the Lancet Commission, as declared by the World Health Organization, and as embraced by the Barbados Association for Cancer Advocacy. And indeed, I see some of the members of the board sitting here, and I know it is indeed welcoming for them this morning to see us stand and debate such a lease on behalf of the facility that they so dearly represent. Madam Deputy Speaker, let me go further, because there was a recommendation made by BARNOC, and that is Barbados Palliative Care Needs Assessment Project Report of 2012, which was commissioned by the Ministry of Health, and the work was done by a palliative care expert, and they know who that person is a Dr. Natalie Graves. I shouldn't call the name, but I think it is worth calling so that it can go on record that Dr. Natalie Graves did some wonderful work, Madam Deputy Speaker, commissioned by the Ministry of Health back in 2012, under the last government. So indeed, you see that there's no political divide as it relates to palliative care. And part of the work done by her and some of the recommendations made were to expand community palliative care through the public health and NGO sectors. In addition, the establishment of a standalone palliative and hospice care facility to supplement and expand community palliative care at the tertiary level. That is what we are here debating this morning. And the report also suggested that a public-private collaboration could be considered to achieve this very worthy goal of a hospice to help terminally ill to transition with dignity. And Madam Deputy Speaker, these are some of the factors, or these are some of the recommendations that came out of that report. But in addition, there are some supporting factors for the need for a hospice. And according to the said report, the 2012 BARNOC report, over 60% of Barbadians could have benefited at that stage from palliative care or from hospice care. The aging Barbados population and the resulting increase in incidence of NCDs will create an increasing need for future palliative care and hospice care services. It is a no-brainer, Madam Deputy Speaker. The projections of the Barbados Ministry of Health is that by 2030, 83% of all deaths in this country will result from NCDs. That's scary. 83% of all deaths will result from NCDs. And Madam Deputy Speaker, we know very well that some families cannot provide the care. And I heard the member for Christchurch East talking to me this morning on an issue, and he said to me that if we had this facility in place, one of his friends would still be living today because we would have provided the necessary care and support for that individual And I know he will have his say in this chamber also on this topic of palliative care and hospice. And it is also situated in the constituency of Prince George East. And I know you relish this opportunity to be associated with such a project. This government will continue, Madam Deputy Speaker, to provide support to BACA. And I'm calling to Madam Deputy Speaker this morning that the private sector needs to join with us as a government and other NGOs to ensure that we don't only build one palliative care facility, but we also give BACA the opportunity to go into some other community and have such another facility. Because I am, of course, passionate about what I see here this morning, and I believe that we can prolong lives of individuals, especially persons coming from the low economic strata in this society. They don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the cash. They don't even have the support to provide the care, the social and emotional support that is needed. And we need trained personnel to provide this care, spiritual support, and emotional support. Don't underestimate the value of emotional and spiritual support as it relates to palliative care in this country and as it relates to kidney diseases and other NCDs. Because very often we find persons suffer from mental disorders more so than just the issue of cancer or kidney diseases. When they're diagnosed and they don't have that support, it affects their mental capacity. And I see it. I have lived it. And I'm asking, Madam Deputy Speaker, while we support this lease of this parcel of land to BACA, we also urge the private sector to get on board and to provide as much support as possible, not only to QAH, but to the NGOs like BACA, who indeed can help build out the palliative care facilities across this country and address the chronic NCDs that permeate this nation. And that indeed we may talk about crime, but some of the health issues in this country are worse than crime, or just as bad as crime. And I'm not underscoring in no way the challenges that we face today as it relates to crime and NCDs. But I will put both of them on the same level of percentage in terms of how we indeed are impacted as a small nation, not only by crime, but by chronic NCDs and other NCDs. Madam Deputy Speaker, while I will give the other members the opportunity to speak on this matter of BACA and the lease of this land, permit me now to go to the other aspect of the resolution, which is number 9, the vesting of some 18,245.6 square meters in the National Housing Corporation to build 33 units. And Madam Deputy Speaker, we are doing this as a cognate debate because they're both on the said property of Corvley Plantation or Corvley Estate. We heard about the Great House and the use of the Great House. Madam Deputy Speaker, we continue to push the housing program in this country, and vesting of these lands, these 33 lots, the 18,245.6 square meters of land into NHC. We can leave it in the state, but why we vest lands in NHC, and I said this morning I would take the time to explain that. We vest lands in NHC, Madam Deputy Speaker, to give good title. The lawyers understand what I mean. We are at a stage, Madam Deputy Speaker, where we have to utilize the liquidity in the banking system to build out our housing program. Years ago, successive governments focused on utilizing government's funding, from the Consolidated Fund, and indeed from the Housing Credit Fund, and some funding that was allocated through the National Housing Corporation for the purpose of building capacity, housing capacity in this country. But we recognize, in an effort to really address the need for housing in this country, some 18,000 applicants at the National Housing Corporation. There is no way that any government can provide financing for 18,000 houses in this country. So to utilize the mortgage system, similar to how some of us built our homes, and I can speak to that, because that is how I built my home. An average boy from rural Barbados went to the bank, got a mortgage, got drawdowns, the foundation. You build the foundation, the valuers came and they assessed, and they said, yes, this is the amount, and they give you funding. Then you take that funding and you go to Ring Beam, they come again, they assess, they give you some more funding. Then you go put on the roof, they come again, they assess. That's the superstructure finish. Then you go to the internals, where you put in your tiles and your kitchen and your plumbing and everything, and they give you, you know, till 100% of that mortgage is exhausted. And that's how we build houses in the private sector. That's how the average person, low income, middle income, whatever, those from the high end in our society, and speaking to housing, that's how we build houses. So for us to access the liquidity within the banking system, that's why we are vesting these lands in the National Housing Corporation and not leaving them in the state, so that the persons who are waiting for these 33 houses at Coverley, when this land is vested, they can go to the bank, and the banks can begin the process of mortgages for these 33 homeowners. Madam Deputy Speaker, while it is only 33, it would be 33 families multiplied by 2.5. So you would have close to 70 persons being housed. That's how we work out the number of individuals who will occupy a house. You don't say 33 by 1, because within a household you have 2 or 3 persons living. So we average it 2.5. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, there's no rocket science to what I have introduced here with respect to housing. We are on a mission, indeed, to house every last person. We know the role of housing in this country. Housing, it addresses some of our social issues. It addresses the crime. It addresses sanitation, poor living conditions. And of course, when you own a home, Madam Deputy Speaker, you can leave something for your children. You can leave an asset. You can leverage that asset also to educate your children, Madam Deputy Speaker. And you can leave a legacy for your children's children. A piece of the rock is what we all Barbadians need. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm not going to prolong the speech, but this resolution is pretty simple. But for me, the palliative care facility this morning, let me thank those members who journey here, and indeed we would have some other members speaking on it. It is something that is dear to this government. We are indeed living our 2018 manifesto pledge, and we are giving BACA the opportunity to provide, through government support and subsidies, to provide palliative care, the much needed palliative care for patients in this country, whether old or young. Madam Deputy Speaker, with those words, I beg that this resolution now pass.
Second.
Thank you.
Honourable member first. Vice yourself and Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your Honor. I speak from the agreed perspective that this morning's debate